Hi, my name is Moiz Baig and welcome to DawnNews English as we dissect the various amendments that have come into the Constitution of Pakistan 1973.
ये एक मुश्किल काम था। पाकिस्तान की 26वीं यौम आज़ादी के मौके पर यानी 14 अगस्त सन 1973 को पाकिस्तान में एक ऐसा आइन नाफिज हुआ जो मुत्तफ़िक़ा था, पार्लिमानी जमहूरी आइन था और जिसे अवाम के मुंतखब नुमाइंदों ने तहरीक किया।
Now, the cacophony surrounding the 27th Amendment warrants a dive into history to delve into various amendments that have come into the Constitution of 1973. Shortly after the enactment of the 1973 Constitution, Pakistan saw the first amendment to the Constitution in 1974. Now, the first constitutional amendment excluded East Pakistan from the definition of territories of Pakistan, thus marking Pakistan's formal recognition of an independent state of Bangladesh. We also know that in 1974, Pakistan was hosting the historical OIC summit in Lahore.
We have traveled a great distance, but yet we have to travel much more, a great deal more, before we can attain our sublime and just objectives.
And as a result, to ensure Sheikh Mujibur Rahman's participation in that summit, Pakistan had to formally recognize Bangladesh as an independent state. So the first amendment not only acknowledged Bangladesh as an independent country, but also paved the way for Sheikh Mujibur Rahman's first visit to Pakistan as the Prime Minister of Bangladesh. Shortly after the first amendment, Pakistan saw the second amendment to the Constitution. Now, compared to the first amendment, the second amendment was more controversial, given that it declared Ahmadis as non-Muslims. We also need to see that this amendment came at a time when the Pakistan People's Party led the government, and given that Pakistan People's Party was seen as a secular political party, the declaration of Ahmadis as non-Muslims was not only controversial at the time, but continues to engender heated debate. In 1975, Pakistan saw two more amendments into the Constitution, the third and fourth constitutional amendments. While the third constitutional amendment increased the period of preventive detention from 1 month to 3 months, the fourth constitutional amendment created more minority seats in the parliament. As far as 1976 is concerned, 1976 saw two major constitutional amendments, both of which significantly affected the functioning of the judiciary. In 1976, Pakistan initially saw the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution. Now, the Fifth Amendment firstly said that there shall be two separate high courts for Sindh and Balochistan. Until the Fifth Amendment, there was one common high court for both Sindh and Balochistan. Nonetheless, after the Fifth Constitutional Amendment, there were separate high courts for both Sindh and Balochistan. The other interesting and perhaps the most significant aspect of the Fifth Constitutional Amendment was that it said that a Chief Justice shall, even if they haven't attained the age of 65 for the Supreme Court and the age of 62 for the High Court, attain retirement if they complete 5 years in office. So as a result, the Fifth Constitutional Amendment arbitrarily cut short the tenure of Chief Justices of not just the Supreme Court but also the High Court. In 1976, Pakistan also passed the Sixth Amendment to the Constitution. Now, in the context of the Fifth Amendment, we saw that the tenure of Chief Justices was arbitrarily cut short. The Sixth Amendment, on the other hand, arbitrarily increased the tenure of the Chief Justice of Pakistan, Justice Yaqub. Now, interestingly, the Sixth Constitutional Amendment was passed in the last session of the National Assembly before its dissolution in 1977. So the outgoing Prime Minister of Pakistan, who was known to be close to the Chief Justice, essentially granted an extension to the Chief Justice of Pakistan, given that the Sixth Amendment provided that a Chief Justice shall continue in office even after attaining the age of superannuation if they hadn't completed 5 years as the Chief Justice. So essentially, not only did the Sixth Amendment raise concerns about its legitimacy, given that it was passed at the fag end of the Parliament's tenure, but also raised increased concerns about the independence of the judiciary, given that the Parliament was arbitrarily increasing tenure of a Chief Justice who was considered to be pliant to the regime. The sixth constitutional amendment also had far-reaching consequences given that it engendered considerable resentment within the judiciary. Now, a couple of years later, we saw that judges who had been hard done by the sixth amendment were the same judges who were a part of the bench hearing the murder case against Prime Minister Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, and these judges were the same judges who in turn convicted Prime Minister Zulfikar Ali Bhutto for life. Today we discuss the first six amendments into the Constitution of 1973 and their import into our polity. Join us next time as we cover the next six amendments into the Constitution of 1973. This is Moiz Baig signing off from DawnNews English.